everyone. I'm Patricia Shampton with the Texas Exes, and thank you for joining us for our October Lunchtime Lecture. We really appreciate your time. And before we get started, we would also like to thank our new sponsor of the Lunchtime Lecture Series, UT's Extended Campus. Extended Campus offers graduate programs, professional certificates, and skill building courses to support your career goals, whether you want to improve in your current job or you're thinking about changing careers altogether. And Texas Exes members can get a 25% discount on all these courses, so it's a really good deal. You can visit extendedcampus.utexas.edu to learn more, and we'll also drop that in the chat. So we're super excited to welcome Dr. Hsiao from the Department of Kinesiology and Health Education to discuss how to reduce the risks of falls as you age. Hsiao is an assistant professor at the University of Texas at Austin. He received a bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering from the National Taiwan Ocean University and a master's of engineering in biomedical engineering from Cornell University. In 2015, Hsiao earned his doctorate in biomechanics and movement science from the University of Delaware, where his dissertation was titled Mechanisms for Increasing Propulsive Force During Walking in Individuals Post-Stroke. He also completed a postdoctoral fellowship in the Department of Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation Science at the University of Maryland in Baltimore. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Hsiao.
Hey, thank you, Patricia. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited to be here to share some of the things I learned in the past few years about aging and falls. So the topic of the presentation is how do we how do we prevent fall when you age, right? And as Patricia already introduced, I am an assistant professor in the Department of Kinesiology and Health Education. Just a little bit of my background. Was born and raised in Taiwan. Studying electrical engineering, so quite different from what I'm doing now. But I spent a few years in the industry as well as a circuit designer, and then I met someone who's from UK, and then what he did was he used his leisure time to build rehabilitation devices, assistive devices for people who need for help. And I found that really inspiring. So that led me to think, oh, maybe I can apply some of the engineering skills to more in the health field. But I realized I don't have any training in biology. I don't really know a lot about the human body system. So there I decided, oh, maybe I can take another master's degree in biomedical engineering to learn more about human body, and that's what I did. I did at Cornell University, then get a BME degree in Masters of Science, and there, what I really fall in love with was the physiology and neuroscience. I realized that I actually are quite interested in that field, and I want to know more. And one thing that Cornell University told me was that, you are engineer, you can probably build things right. You can make something function well, but are you building the right thing? So they constantly challenge engineers that thought, how do you know the things that you build, the users will like it and actually use it? So you have, for example, you can have a very fancy robot that does a lot of fancy things, but then your user doesn't want to use it because it's not very careful, not very comfortable to wear the exoskeleton, or it's too cumbersome. Things like that. That from the user's perspective, are you doing the right thing? So I realized if I want to pursue in rehabilitation engineering, I want an interdisciplinary environment where I can work with the clinicians as well to solve a clinical problem. And that's where I joined the University of Delaware in the biomechanics and movement science program, where we can get to work together with kinesiologists, with the physical therapists, and with mechanical engineers. And in fact, my primary mentor was the chair of the physical therapy department in Delaware, and where I learned a lot about post-stroke gait rehabilitation. I still do a lot of research on gait rehabilitation for individuals who have sustained a stroke. And then after I obtained my PhD degree, joined the University of Baltimore. So that's University of Maryland, Baltimore. So that's where the School of Medicine is. So I joined physical therapy and rehabilitation science department, where I met my mentor, who basically dedicated his career in fall prevention in older adults. So certainly learned a lot from him, and we'll share some of the results today. And of course, I end up joining UT by say bye bye to snow plowing every winter. So finally joined the warm weather, and I'm currently directing the neural rehabilitation and biomechanics lab. And I will also share some of the things, the research activities we do here. Okay, so for the outline for today's talk, we'll talk about the scale of the problem first. And I think most folks acknowledge that falling in aging is a big problem, but the actual scale might be bigger than you initially thought. And then we're going to talk about some factors that contribute to falls and how aging could affect those factors. Then we'll advance and discuss what exercises could reduce the risk of falls. Um, okay, so first, Americans are aging. If we take a look at this data from the United States Census Bureau, on the left-hand side, you're seeing the big difference from 1960 to the projected 2060 population, right? So on the vertical axis, those are the age groups, and the horizontal axis are the millions of people. And we, of course, we have male and female in different colors. So back in 1960s, you can see the shape is quite different. Barely have anybody above 80 years old, right? So it's like very tip point. And then the transition kind of start around age of 50, right? You can see the population start to decrease once you pass that age of 50, right? Versus in contrast, in 2060, you almost see like a rectangle, like there's no decrease in older population. And especially if you look at how we define older age, 65 plus, it's a big difference. Much more older adults in the upcoming years, right? So if you shift your attention to the right side of this diagram, you see two curves, and those are the proportions, the percentage of older adults in blue and children under 18 in orange, right? So in 2016, just 8 years ago, the percentage of older adults is still well below the percentage in children. Right? But then in 2034, it's projected to outnumber, the older adults are projected to outnumber the children by 2034, which is not that far away. Like in 10 years, we'll see more older adults than younger children. And then the differences will start to increase, right? So as currently in 2024, we have about 60 million of older adults, age 65 plus. Okay. So as a nation, we have a lot more older adults, which is not a bad thing, as it's just because of improvement in technology and healthcare, and people care about their health more. So we live longer. That's a good thing. Um, it's just the fact that we will have a lot of older adults. Okay. Um, but how does that connect to falls, right? So in older adults, on average, over a quarter of adults, older adults will fall each year in the U.S. And the newer stats actually showing that it's actually every 1/3 of older adults. So it's even worse. If you're listening to this and you're age of 65 plus and you're talking to two of your friends similar to your age, chances are one of you, 3 out of 3, have already had a full last in the past 12 months, right? So so I dare to challenge you to think about, do you know anybody that do you know anyone that does not have heard anyone fail in the past 6 months? I dare to challenge you that, right? So Patricia and I was chatting before the presentation. She actually took a fall just last week, unfortunately, but fortunately didn't get much severe injury. And my student just chatting with me the past Tuesday too. He's told me his grandmother fell. Another student about 6 months ago told me like his mother fell. So it's very prevalent. The problem is very prevalent. Okay. And about 25% of falls results in a serious injury like broken bones or head injuries. Is a number one cause of injury-related death for older adults. Okay, if you look at the bottom stats, it's even more scary. So every 11 seconds, an older adult is treated in the ER because of a fall. Every 1 second, an older adult falls, right? So am I presenting for like 10 minutes now, right? That's 600 falls already. That's crazy, right? Thinking about it. So every 19 minutes, an older adult died because as a result of fall, right? So and that's only quantifying the direct cost, right? So the indirect cost wasn't even included in there. So from my personal experience, like my grandmother had took a fall at her age of 80, and after that fall, so she had to be on the wheelchair. Very difficult to visit friends. Very difficult to participate in the community events, right? And as you age, your metabolism start to decrease, and the inactivity, if you start participating, that is even worse, right? So that there's a vicious cycle. So although it's not a direct cause of her death, I can see that's the first dominoes to fall. So that's not even reflected in these stats, right? Uh, More than 95% of hip fractures are due caused because of fall, and it's also a financial burden. About 60 billions spent on direct care costs of falls. Okay, and it's also not the same as a like a disease like COVID, for example. It's serious, but if you get it, you build up your immune system to against it, right? Fall is different. If you fall once, actually doubles your chance of falling again. So it's actually even worse. So it's that's why the problem is very serious. Okay, so there's a few causes that people, the primary causes that contribute to falls on the left-hand side of this diagram, including mental health. So, like if you have mental problems, you're confused, you're easy to forget things, right? It could contribute to higher risk of falls. And weakness and frailty are the obvious ones, right? So if you're very weak, you cannot quickly adjust your posture based on the environment, right? And or if you're imbalanced, you have to recover from that imbalance. Weakness will hinder you from doing it, right? Vision effect, that's important, right? If you cannot see well, you cannot detect the hazard, full hazard well on the floor. Um, in Texas, we don't have much high icing road, so that's easier. That's better. But there are still could be uneven terrains you have to detect, right? Musculoskeletal issues, arthritis, stiffness of joint, weak muscles, right? So you use very stiff, which we observe in older adults. Then it's not easy to adjust your posture, right? Quickly in the event that you have to change your body position, right? And of course, the clinical populations like stroke, individuals who have the stroke or Parkinson's disease would affect, contribute to a higher risk of falls, heart problems. Environment is the one that's something that you need to be aware of, and because it's relatively easy fix, right? So if you, let's say, poor lighting, you can adjust it. Let's say slippery surface, like the rocks on the floor is slippery. Those are the things that you can replace. You can almost immediately change things to make it better, right? Do you have handrail installed in your bathrooms, right? Those are dangerous areas. Do you have those extra support to prevent a fall? So those are the things that you need to consider about falls. Um, and on the right hand side, we have the effects, right? So that's the results. Of course, those are relatively intuitive, physical uh, injuries, immobility, and social. So I like this diagram a lot because it is quite thorough. What it did not capture, I want to add, is the immobility and social, the effect area. There should be an arrow pointing back sometimes to the causes, right? So you think about immobility and social. If you stop participating, then you're not using the muscles. The muscles becomes weakness, and then further increase your risk of falls, right? So you can see that vicious circle. And as a prevention rehabilitation scientist, our goal is to break that circle, right? And because of my expertise in movement analysis and biomechanics, I will focus more on the movements that we can target to reduce the weakness and musculoskeletal issues. All right, so those we talk about a lot of factors contribute to falls. Does aging really are that really related to age? And unfortunately, yes. So as we age, we have ample strong body of evidence showing that we have increased in body weight. When you so for example, you stand there, you are less steady compared with the younger adults. And we have delayed or longer muscle onset latencies, right? So meaning that if you have to quickly adjust your posture, you were delayed a little bit. We to turn on the muscle, we're a little bit late. We have increased the muscle co-activation. So that means you turn on the muscle concurrently for multiple muscles. And so that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes we need that to increase the joint stability. So in something like when you're landing, that's important, but it makes stiffer to adjust posture. So that does sometimes contribute to falls as well. We also have decreased information processing speed and attention capacity, decreased visual, vestibular, cutaneous, and proprioceptive inputs, basically sensation. So you sense imbalance a little less sensitive to imbalance. And proprioception is where your joint is, your body posture is, what are the joint angles and your body parts relative to space. So that's part of the sensation, proprioception, and was decreased with aging. And the obvious ones in muscle strength and volume, that's very well documented. As you age, you have more fat infiltration and then less muscle, right? Okay. So all these things, you might stare at your lunch and think about, oh Lord, it's such a depressing lunch. Why do you have to bring all the bad news? I'm not only bringing the bad news, and there are things we can actually do about it. It's not just all bad. So on the bright side, the predictor of falls, the strongest predictor is actually frailty, not age. Okay, so that means the biological clock we put on people. Oh, how about how old are you? That is not the strongest predictor of falls. Instead, it's how strong you are. Okay, so in our program, in our study, many times we have older adults, 75, 70 plus, performing balance tests better than younger adults because they maintain in a very good condition, body condition. They're very active. Judging by the way they move, you can hardly tell that their age. So you can maintain it at a higher level. Okay, age is not everything. Second thing is educational awareness does decrease the risk of falls. So things like this, like if you're participating in a lecture like this, you're aware about things that you can change, like the environmental factors you can change almost immediately, right? The exercises, how do you increase stability? We're gonna talk about that later. That does prove already documented this, it will reduce the risk of falls. So if you're here, you're starting doing the right thing already. So together we can reduce the fall risks. Okay. So how do we do it? Right. So from the next couple of slides, I want to kind of show you the current evidence that's pointing what type of exercise are going to be useful. And then I'm going to highlight these three elements that I believe is important when you select an exercise to target fall prevention. The first important thing is mechanical stability, and the second thing is limb support, force production, and the third important thing is the rapid reactions. Okay, so one by one. First, mechanical stability. What do we mean by mechanical stability? So if you look at the person standing with the feet shoulder width apart, right? The center of gravity is usually around the belly button area, right? So around the area, and the base of support is defined by the feet. So if you look at that black arrow at the bottom, that width is the base of support. So if you project the center of gravity down to the floor, and the center of gravity is within that base of the support area, we say it's mechanically stable. Okay. So now if the person starts to lean sideways and the center of gravity is traveling sideways, once it passes the feet outside of the base support area, it's mechanically unstable. Okay, so that means, and in that case, you either have to quickly adjust the center of gravity to come back to that base of support, or you quickly adjust your foot to modify your base of support area. Okay, so there are two ways. One, quickly adjust your center mass. Two, quickly adjust your feet, which is the foot placement that defines the base of support area. Okay, so you can view these three dots as a triangle, right? So the 2 feet on the bottom and the center of gravity on the top. As long as the top stays within that bottom area, you're mechanical stable, right? Okay, so this is two standing on 2 feet, right? What if 1 feet? What if you do a single leg stance? Then you're narrowing your base of support into a very narrow region, which is basically the width of your feet, right? Of your foot. But that's why it's so challenging. Then that means you have to really manipulate your body, control your body center mass position within that region. Once you fall outside a little bit, you start tilting, right? And that's why single leg stance is much, much more challenging compared to double leg stance, right? So what's most stable? Like that, right? So very wide base of support with the center mass stay very far away from that stability margin, right? So that's very stable. Okay, how about this? Right. Again, take a look at the base of support area defined by the feet, and the belly button where the center mass is well outside of the margin of stability, right? So in this, we're gonna call it mechanically unstable. But somehow MJ was able to do it, which is amazing. And I still don't know why he was able to do it. A lot of people try to figure it out. If you know the answer, please let me know. I'm very interested. I think this is amazing. Mechanically unstable. Somehow he was able to do it. Okay. All right. So that's static when standing, right? When we're doing dynamic movement, we have to account for not just the position of the center of mass, but also the velocity, where it's traveling towards, right? So if we look on the left-hand side, the individual is going forward. The center of mass is probably very close to the leading limb boundary, right? So it could be above, it could be more already outside of the boundary. I cannot tell, right? So, but the belly button area is kind of close to that boundary. But if you account for the velocity of the center mass is traveling forward, if you account for that, then we create a projected center of mass position. We call this an extrapolated center of mass position. It's going to be outside of the base support, right? So the only solution in this case is, again, you either quickly modify the center mass position coming back to between the leg, or you increase your base of support by taking a larger step forward or using your hand, right? So in this case, it's either stepping or landing on the hand, right? Okay, on the right hand side, same thing, right? Falling sideways, how do you maintain mechanical stability? Swinging your stepping leg sideways, so that your extrapolated center mass position still within the base of support. Okay, so that's how we say how you maintain mechanical stability. So based on these, you probably can guess what type of exercise would be useful, right? An exercise that focusing on foot placement, stepping, and weight transfer, shifting your body weight, control your body center of mass, right? So if the exercise that's targeting stepping and weight transfer, that's typically useful for fall prevention. And here are some evidences that's from the CDC. So what they're showing that, so for example, multi-target stepping program. And if you look at the colorful diagram at the bottom here, you will see the protocol from week 1 to 6. They design like 2 colors of squares, and they ask participants to only step into the red, right, and avoid the blue. Stepping, 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 avoid blue. Week 7 to 12, stepping in the red still, but now you have more different colors, and then the stepping distance start to change, start to vary. So there's different stepping patterns start to make it more complicated. And as you progress towards more towards the end of the trial, it's become more and more complicated, and you have different stepping, different duration, different direction as well, right? So what they reported is that after 24 weeks of this stepping training, the fall rate was reduced 65%. of the participants in the program compared to the ones that did not participate in the program. So quite significant. Okay. And the other one is a Central Sydney Tai Chi trial. If you don't know what Tai Chi is originated from ancient Chinese martial art. But it was right now is not very intense, but I use it as a balance trial. So I just want to show you a quick video, just get a sense of what this is, and pay attention to the stepping and weight transfer during this video. See how well it plays. Okay, so yeah, I just want to give you a sense of how it looks like. So you can notice there's a lot of like stepping and slow weight transfer and twisting and turns, weight shifting practice in there, right? So what they reported is that if you practice this once a week for 16 weeks, fall rate was 30% lower, and rate of multiple falls was 46% lower than the control. Okay? Um, a third example is they call it a music-based multitask exercise program. And then this is, if you look at the description, is walking in time to the music and responding to changes in the rhythm, right? And multi-directional wake shifting, walk and turn sequences. So if you read the text, it's basically dancing, right? So it's basically a dancing program. And then what they found is same thing, 1 hour a week only, right? For 6 months, the fall rate was 54% lower compared to the control. Okay, so if you're doing dancing as your activity, keep doing it. Bravo. That's a very good job. Keep doing it. It's already proven to be useful for fall prevention, right? A lot of stepping and turning, right? Weight shifting. Okay, so that's the first element. The second element is relatively intuitive. It's a support force production. So in order to support your body, obviously you need forces. This is especially important when there's uneven surfaces, okay? Like stairs. You have to elevate your body up, so you need more forces. Or stepping off a curb, you have that impact you need to sustain. You have the suspension system, basically, right? Otherwise you will collapse and fall. So just a quick example, right? So this is an individual who stepped into the ditch, right? And then nothing happened, nothing bad happened, but a very big ditch, right? So okay, so it's a huge depth, so that's why I need a lot of support force. This gentleman actually had very good force production. The knee did not really collapse, and he was able to use his hand. So no injuries happened here. Okay. The other example was not as fortunate. It was an old lady, and then unfortunately fell on the porch. And I want to show you. But if you feel uncomfortable seeing somebody fall, you don't have to watch this one, okay? But I just want to show you and pay attention to the support for the role of supporting force of the legs. Okay, so
is making a delivery for Domino's Pizza. The elderly woman approaches the front porch with her arms loaded with food. All she needs to do is navigate one step, but down she falls. Dazed and injured, she struggles to get to her feet. The concerned homeowner is shocked to find the woman on the ground.
Sorry,
Are you okay?
not so.
Are you okay? Are you hurt? I come downstairs, I open the door, and she's just on the ground. I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? Her first concern, ruining the family's dinner. Are you hurt?
I fell. Here I go. Boom. I fell on their pasta, and my head was going towards their chair, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to lose an eye.
You must have been so frightened for a second.
I was shaking.
Barbara Gillespie, age 72, is a retired school lunch lady. She said she took the job with Domino's Pizza because she needed the money. Firefighter Kevin Huron and his wife Lacey knew they had to do something.
When I speed.
Okay, so I don't think I need to play the whole video, but just to see how she navigate the curve, right? So let me go back to the video. Okay, so you will see the leading limb does not have enough support, and also the trailing limb is not pushing up enough.
Step, but down she falls.
Right, so that's an example of not enough support force when you elevate, try to elevate the body onto the curb, right? So the story actually has a very good ending. So the homeowners do a fundraiser for the old lady, and old lady was not hurt, and then get the money, and then don't have to work as a pizza delivery person again. So it was a very kind of sweet story towards the end. But I just want to highlight the importance of force production, and of course. During a single leg stance, we already talked about how it challenges stability, but it also challenges force production because instead of two legs, now you have only one leg have to support the whole body, right? And therefore, a clinical test is called a single leg stance test. And I remember vividly when I was at Baltimore, when we do that clinical test, single leg stance for older adults, healthy older population, almost half of them cannot do single leg stance for more than 20 seconds. Like people sway and have to put the foot down, or yeah, all for all different reasons. So single leg stance is one of the things that the clinicians really cares a lot and think that's a good indicator of balance. Okay, and there are some exercises that you can do to kind of during a single leg exercise. I want to kind of show you. I think you might benefit some of our folks because these are things we can do at home. I want to show you.
Inner level, single leg balance with movement. Now, ideally, you want to stand between two firm chairs, or you could have the kitchen counter on one side and a wall nearby for the narrow galley kitchen. So anything that gives you some support on either side should you lose balance or need extra support. Now, ideally, I'm not going to actually hold on to the chairs, but my hands are going to be just above the chairs. As with all of the standing exercises, you don't want to lock your knees, so you should have a soft bend in the knees. You want to be in your best upright posture. You're then going to transfer all your weight onto one leg. So it's important that you master that exercise before moving on to this one. You transfer all your weight onto one leg. I'm going to transfer to my left, lifting my right into the air. And then I'm going to bring my right foot forward, out to the side, and straight back. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Forward, out to the side, and back. As you're mastering this exercise, if you need to touch down for a bit of stability, that's totally fine. And balance is one of those areas that you'll gain both confidence and ability in very quickly. And so you'll soon find that you don't need as much support.
Okay, so this exercise I think is important, but it's key to make sure you're safe, right? And then you can practice. What the lady showed in the video was a dynamic, right? But you can start with static. Just lift the knee, just lift one foot, and then make sure you're safe. You have something on the side to hold. And then once you master that for more than 20 to 30 seconds in static, that's where you can progress to dynamics. Okay, so I think this is very useful exercise that we can easily do it at home and in a safe way. Okay, and of course there are evidence in the strength program, the October exercise program, doing moderate intensity with ankle cuff, work on the lower extremity muscles, decrease fall rate by about 35%. Okay, so these strength training programs, you have a lot of evidence. This one is also very similar, using ankle weight exercise and with balance training. And this one is, I want to put this one here is because the exercise is relatively easy to set up, right? You can hold on the chair and do the ankle pumps, right? And also the squats, right, with the support, or even just sit to stand, and that can strengthen the lower extremity muscles. And it also show about 40% less likely to fall compared to controls. So far, the evidence is showing that in the past 2 decades, strength and balance training is effective in reducing falls and ranging from anywhere from 30 to 70%. Okay, so the next, I think I have about 5 minutes. I want to show you what's still missing. What can we still do better? And these are the relatively newer evidences. So don't forget about speed, right? So the Tai Chi things that we're doing, the other slow weight transfer, when you actually fall, you're gonna fall down within 1 second. So the planning and the execution has to be happen quickly. So one of the study in the treadmill, we call it the balance perturbation study. The diagram is showing a treadmill is in the blue rectangle, and the person is walking from the top view, right? And you can see a cable on the side that can pull the person from time to time, right? And to provide an imbalance and induce imbalance. And 30 milliseconds is usually what you need to really be able to correct your step. You don't have that much time, right? So don't forget about the element of first speed, right? And there are things you can practice. So this one is also used in the clinic. It's a reactive stepping. So basically the person on the right lean forward or backwards, right? And then the person on the left can support it and suddenly let go, right? And then the person on the right will have to react to that and take a step, right? So that's something, again, if you want to do it, make sure it's safe. You don't have to do it a big angle to begin with, and maybe smaller, slowly, progressively increase, okay? And you can do it sideways as well. Now, there are devices like newer or treadmills that can provide those kind of perturbations. I can show you real quickly. So like this treadmill can change speed. So that kind of gives you an idea. This obviously manipulating the bell speed to simulate a trip or a slip, right? And then to force you to take adjustments for that reactive response, right? Let me switch back. And then or there's also easy ones like the lateral perturbation you can do. Okay, so that's also another example that you use external forces to trigger that reaction, right? So those are the examples. And of course, in our lab, we have similar things like the first one. This one is dropping the surface, and this one we didn't ask participants to take a step, but instead just try to maintain your center of mass position. Try to maintain, not fall forward. So it's quite not intense, right? And this one is backward, right? So we just basically try to trigger that reaction. And the other one is sideways. And we actually ask participant to take a step as fast as he can. Wait, oh, actually, you can play. Okay, so this kind of reactive stepping training as well. Okay, and then recently we're combining that Tai Chi foot placement and weight transfer is going to be useful, but we're thinking that missing the reactive speed component, so we combine both. So this lady was doing foot placement, Tai Chi practice, and transfer her weight, and we'll use the perturbation to trigger the reaction in this step. So you have to adjust the posture to react to that imbalance. Okay. And this is what we did for clinical population. This is two participants who had a stroke. And also, if you notice, the treadmill was oscillating left and right. So we kind of forced them to walk in the unstable environment. And they were able to do it after a couple of sessions. They were even to do it even without holding on the handrail. So yeah. Okay, so does the perturbation training really work? So using the external forces actually works. And the current review study showed yes, if you compare the perturbation studies with the control group, fall rate was lower following the perturbation-based training. So that's one element that I think a lot of exercises are missing is a speed component, a reactive component that you have to address during an actual sudden accidental falls, right? Okay, so to wrap up, if you wanted to pick something that you think is important, you think can help you prevent falls, pick something that has some stepping component in there, something that force some strength output, right? And something that requires speed. Okay, so and it doesn't have to be one exercise fits all of them, right? It could be Monday, Wednesday I do stepping, and Friday I do strength, and Sunday I do speed, right? So it doesn't have to be all at the same workout, right? But these are the important elements and already evidence-based supported to be useful. Okay, so with that, I want to thank NIH and College of Education funding my research, and thank all the members in our lab and the participant. In fact, we have recruit participant from Texas Access. So thank you if you're listening and you're participating in our research. And if you, this is my email and the QR code directly linked to my email. If you have questions or if you're interested in participating and just learn more about this, or if you're interested in any of the videos I show you, I'm more than happy to share with you. Just email me. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We've got a few questions coming in, so I'll just jump into those. But before I do that, some of you have asked if you could get a copy of this presentation. It's always going to be on the Texas X's YouTube channel. We even have a playlist for lunchtime lectures, so you can see it there. And you also should receive a link. And then, of course, you know, Dr. Hsiao has been so gracious to share his email address with you too. So you've got lots of ways to get this information. All right, so first one is all of these are kind of about the younger generation and then just things to do to increase strength. But first, does running and strength training, lifting weights, reduce falls? That's the first one.
Yes,
That's
that's part of the strength the strength training evidence. I didn't really specifically pull up the weight training, but it is strength training. As long as it's in lower extremity, that would increase your support force. Then yes, it has been shown to be effective.
And then what about bone density? So does having a higher bone density impact whether you're going to fall more frequently or not?
I don't know if it affects the frequency, but I know it reduced the fracture, the rate of fracture, right? So
Yeah.
if it's strong bones, of course, it's less likely you get fractured. But I don't know if it really changed the frequency.
Okay.
But I need to dig. I just don't know it.
Okay. Couple of questions about the younger generation and the idea that maybe the younger generations aren't getting as much exercise because they're working in front of computers and doing all this. What do you think is going to happen to these guys? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, excellent question. Yeah, I think that, of course, they also have a risk, although maybe lower than older adults. But yes, so we're seeing younger adults right now, like even myself, right, at 40, right? So I do feel much weaker compared to when I'm 30, right? And because a lot of times we're sedentary behavior, so we have to kind of force ourselves to go out and do some activities. So yeah, the short answer is yes, the younger generation also have a fall risk. The difference is though, they recover a little bit faster than older adults, right? So I myself, I'm sure if you have your older adults who are listening, you feel that. Like if you compare it to 10 years ago, your healing process is just much longer. So even if they fall and get hurt, they have much better recovery compared to older adults. But yeah, younger generation now, if you're inactive, yeah, you're fragile too. You're frail too. So in fact, we have a couple. We study stroke a lot, and then we are seeing the whole population who have stroke become much younger. 10 years ago was on average about 60 years old. Now it's about 70. Sorry,
Wow.
flipped. So 10 years ago was about 70. Now it's about 60. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about reaction time and ways to kind of increase that. And are there like just very simple exercises that you can do in front of your desk or at home to kind of help with reaction time or not? The answer may be no. I'm just asking.
Yeah, so I thought about that. That's a very excellent question because a lot of those we're still using the lab equipment, which you don't have at home. So the one
Yeah.
that with the hand push, you need a partner to help though. Like
Mhm.
with the hand, you give a load to it, and then the person let go. That's the thing that you can do at home. Oh, just make sure you don't do it too aggressively in the beginning. Just slowly progress. So that will be the example. The other kind of moderate evidence was they call it a choice reaction time. So if there are like computer programs that can have like green light or red light, and if the green light light up, then you reach your left hand or you reach your left foot, you step with the left foot or the right foot based on which light lights up, right?
Yes.
Those can affect, but the why do I say it's moderate? Because it's not purely it's not rapid enough. You still have your sensory process and then take the step, right? So it's not like you reacted to imbalance like you're falling, right? So there's a little bit difference, but people are showing that there's an association between if your choice reaction is fast, your reaction to fall is also faster.
Got it.
Yeah.
There is one attendee that says she had Guillain-Barré 21 years ago, and she has some proprioception issues, but she's now 71. So what might be the best first steps for her?
First steps, I'm assuming if there's no other like musculoskeletal issues, the first step might be I would say the single leg stance would be the safest and relatively static, right? So you don't again you don't have to swing the leg. Like the first one is really just try to shift your weight onto one leg and lift the other leg up. And if you need hand support, use hand support, but slowly let it go, right? And that's probably because the proprioception issues, meaning you have some sensation deficits, right? You can use that as a way to feel where your body pressure is underneath your foot and how do you control that. I think that would be a good first place to start with because it's relatively easy, doable at home, and then just make sure you have the enough hand support, not falling due to exercise, right? So I think yeah, that would be a easy, and not just for this audience, for a lot of older adults. If you're not confident in the dynamic workout training, all that, if you're not confident or not comfortable with any of that, the single leg stance would be a good place to start overall.
That's great advice. And thank you so much for sharing this info with the UT community. We really appreciate it, Dr. Shaw. Oh, we have one more before I let everyone go. What is the most effective weight training exercises? Last
Most
question.
effective weight training exercise. Most of the time, the effective ones are the ones that actually challenges multiple dimensions, right? So if you have weight training, let's say, but I'm not sure if the audience is an older adult. So if the single leg hopping is not too aggressive for you, right? So you're training balance and at the same time the strength, right? If you're doing hopping with the single leg, right, and then left and right, and because what I did not say here is that most of the falls occur during walking, actually, right? And during walking, you have a lot of like double stands and to single leg support and then to double stand. You have to constantly do that. And during walking, it's also more vulnerable in a lateral balance than anterior posterior. So coming back to the strength, if you're doing one leg hopping, make sure you cover different directions. That's all I'm saying, right? So it's also lateral direction as humans are relatively vulnerable in that imbalance in laterally. Okay, so you can do that. If that's too much, then maybe don't do hopping, just do single leg, and then you bend down a little bit and extend, bend down a little bit and then extend, right?
Okay, so I said that was the last question, but we have one really good last question. Here we go. So how effective is weight loss, like losing 15 to 20 pounds and preventing falls? I thought that was a good one. So
Yeah, it is a good one. I agree. So I have to be honest, I didn't really directly read an article about that. So I'm not saying based on evidence. I'm just saying based on physics. then you're reducing the load, right? So you're reducing the load for your lower limb. Then yeah, it will be easier for your lower limb to shift your body center of mass back to the safe region, right? The marginal stability, the stability area, right? So just by physics, you're reducing the load. It will be easier to manipulate and change your body position. So I would say yes, but I have to dig the evidence. I will be surprised if no evidence shows that.
Well, thank you again. We really appreciate your time, Dr. Hsiao. And thank you again to our sponsor, Extended Campus, and to all of y'all for listening in today. We hope to see you at our next lunchtime lecture on Wednesday, November 13th, to hear from Dr. Tamara Bell. She's an assistant professor at the Moody College of Communication, and her lecture will focus on the past, present, and future of podcasting. So you can register now at texasaccess.org/lunchtime lectures. And we wish you a great day and hook 'em.